needed to be convinced that mass incarceration is slavery, look no further than Louisiana, where the nation's largest prison sits atop 18,000 acres of former slave plantations, where the people incarcerated there are still by law forced to perform virtually free labor that the state of Louisiana profits millions from. America already incarcerates more people than anywhere else in the world, but within its own borders, Louisiana has the largest prison population in this country. So as bad as that all sounds, what if I told you it just got a lot worse? Just a few days ago, Republican Governor Jeff Landry signed into law a terrifying law that would, one, prevent anyone convicted of a crime after August 1st from ever qualifying for parole. Please think about that. The state with the highest prison population, with prisons that sit atop slave plantations being forced to do free labor, has now made it so a significant amount of those people incarcerated there can never get out. You see what's happening, right? And that's not even all the law would do. Two, it would also allow people to be executed using nitrogen gas, which not only indicates that Louisiana plans to end its 14-year hiatus on executions, but that it plans to do it as inhumanely as possible. In January, Alabama became the first state to try out nitrogen gas as their form of execution for people sentenced to the death penalty. And it was just as inhumane as opponents warned it would be. People watched as Kenny Smith, the man who was executed using nitrogen gas, was strapped to a gurney where for 20 minutes he suffocated, gasped, and writhed in pain. And there's no question who this will disproportionately affect, as 65% of the people incarcerated in Louisiana's entire prison system are Black. If you ever needed to be convinced that mass incarceration is slavery.
Yep. She hit the nail on the head. And we actually did some stories on that last year. And the Kenny Smith situation was absolutely inhumane. I mean, sometimes folks get the death penalty for some heinous stuff and you just could care less. But then you see the results of that. And the way he died was absolutely unfathomable that somebody could sit and watch that death. Regardless of what he may have done to get to that situation. But more importantly, she's right. Who is it going to affect? And the numbers show it. So anyway, welcome. Welcome to a Monday morning, right, y'all? The Oscars was last night, and do we care? Well, we're going to tell you about the Black folks who won. That's what we're going to do today. Also, and just to go along with that opening theme there, Arizona Republicans have advanced a bill legalizing killing migrants on supposed suspicion of trespassing. So now they want to shoot migrants coming over the border just on sight. And a woman, this is interesting. A woman was arrested on Friday after dousing Vice President Kamala Harris's motorcade with a red liquid. It turned out it was not hazardous. But what was interesting, I found anyway, no national media reported on this. No national media. It was only reported locally in Phoenix, Arizona. The Vice President motorcade attack, you'd think, is big news. We'll talk about that a little bit this morning. And another reason, another poll, and another reason to distrust polls, or another reason to shake your head, as an ABC News-led poll show Americans split on who they trust to do a better job as President, Biden or Trump. The knee-jerk saying reaction is, how could they be split? But then when you dig into the polls, you kind of see why. An agency created to help minority-owned businesses. See, here's another thing. Another thing that's going on in this country that is, it's spreading and spreading fast. And it shows you where we really are. An agency created to help minority-owned businesses get government contracts has been ordered by a federal judge to either stop assisting these businesses or start assisting white companies as well. Yeah, you heard it right. You heard it right. Unreal. We'll talk about that, what that is about, which you probably can easily guess what it's about. And in less than 4 years after George Floyd was murdered, lawmakers and voters across America are moving to reverse criminal justice reform. Greer, where's that? Molly, girl, we in trouble. Because that is unthinkable. All this stuff, when you put it all together, what's happening? It is not good. Definitely not good. So I'm in the Big Apple still. We're headed to DC. It's Black Press Week in Washington, D.C. I'm looking forward to the Howard University visit on Thursday. Black publishers from around the country will be in Black Press Week, and Friday is the state of the Black press of America. Looking forward to it all. What a week ahead. Better than the week behind. So we kick off this morning with the Oscars. Several Black stars showed up at the 96 Academy Awards last night in hopes of taking one of the most prestigious honors in entertainment home. Late night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel, he was the high profile host of the ceremony for the fourth time, which took place at the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles, with many actors, movie makers, and celebrities in attendance. Danielle Brooks, Divine, Joy Randolph, Sterling K. Brown, Coleman Domingo, and Jeffrey Wright were nominated for their phenomenal acting roles. This year's presenters included previous Oscar winners and prominent actors such as Zendaya, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, Lupita Nyong'o, and Grammy winner John Batiste delivered a heartwarming performance during the ceremony. American Fiction, directed by Cord Jefferson, competed with box office darlings Oppenheimer and Barbie for the biggest honor of the night, Best Picture. The film also contended with other heavy hitters for the category, including Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Past Lives, and Poor Things. So the bottom line is the Black actors who did win were Divine Joy Randolph for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. Oh, it's a supporting role. Oh, it's a supporting role. Where is last month we talked about Jay-Z giving that speech about his wife not winning Best Album. Where is the Black folks when it comes to the Best Leading Actor and Leading Actress? But Divine Joy Randolph takes home the trophy for Best Supporting Actress for The Holdovers. And Cord Jefferson, Best Writing, Adapted Screenplay Film, American Fiction. Chris Bowers won for the category of Documentary Short Film, The Last Repair Shop. So those were your Black winners. And I'm not going into the other winners. So if you want to know that, go look at Fox News. But congratulations to the winners of the 96th Academy Awards. Look at that. That is amazing. Somebody get married in blue. No, that is a nice presentation there. Now on to more serious stuff. Again, this is the things that are happening are troubling, to say the least. And I mentioned at the top, so troubling. I mentioned at the top, I'm in New York, the world's greatest city. But I'll tell you what, it's an occupied New York City. I had to see for myself, I don't mess with the subways anymore, but I had to see for myself. And sure enough, went down, I'm right across from Penn Station, went down to the E, the F train and other trains. And sure enough, there is the National Guard rifles out, or rifles, that's old school. They got automatic weapons out. And behind them, state troopers. And behind them, NYPD. It is a sight for sore eyes. It is a sight that it feels like. I remember some years ago, the first time I ever went to Mexico, a place called Rosa Rita Beach, and I just remember the federales, if you will, walking and through the streets and riding in vehicles, and they would ride in their vehicles with the passenger or the other cop, the partner, sitting on the window sill, I guess, sitting outside the window as they ride with his automatic weapon up in the air, as if there was a war going on. And that's what New York looks like right now in the subway system. Looks like it's an occupied state, and that is really, again, an indication of how bad things are, not just in New York but everywhere. And then so Republicans in Arizona are broadcasting what they consider a tough border stance with legislation aimed at punishing migrants who enter the United States illegally. The proponent of one bill has suggested that it would be lawfully allowed. I'm sorry, that would lawfully allow property owners to shoot and kill migrants criminally trespassing on their property. And it was pointed out that when some come across the border, the property is owned by someone. It may not be, when we think of property, we might think of somebody's backyard or something. No, this is just simply, it's just land. It's just land. And so the lawmakers want to make it legal to just shoot and kill them. Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs is expected to veto the trespassing bill, as well as one that cleared the second of both houses this past week. And I'm not sure what what the veto, what it will take to overcome her veto. I don't know if Arizona has the numbers, I should say, to overcome her veto. But again, you see where it's all going. And Power 96 mentions that an Arizona ranch catcher, somebody by the name of George Kelly, I can't read the second name, this is where my screen is, to look at you, Power 96. But George Allen Kelly is currently on trial for the fatal shooting of a migrant on his property near the U.S.-Mexico border. But they want to be able to shoot these migrants on site. It's bad enough. I think about President Biden's State of the Union address, where he talked about migrants, and of course by the way, he mentioned illegals in that speech, and he's had to since apologize for using that language. He said that the official language that Democrats use is undocumented. But nonetheless, he talked about the fact that everybody came from somewhere in this country. Everybody, of course, except the Native Americans. This is their land. And so here, the plight of immigrants anyway is tough, to say the least. That is understating saying the word tough. And you got places like Texas where Abbott is busing them. And they spend so much money busing them to places like here in New York and Washington, D.C. A boatload of money. And so the Arizona governor says that they are acting on clear political signals from the voters that immigration and the border is their number one issue. This is something that they've been pushing, this issue. But yet, once again, I refer back to the president's State of the Union, where he made it clear, and we reported on this before the State of the Union, that a bipartisan agreement on the most comprehensive border deal, perhaps in American history, was reached. In fact, an overwhelming majority of senators voted for this deal. But MAGA Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, the one that, the de facto House Speaker, because Donald Trump is truly the House Speaker. I said this, I was, Friday, I was in Karine Jean Pierre's office, and I said to her, I said, you know, because she kept saying, you know, Speaker Johnson. I said, no. I said, you mean Trump? She says, no, well, him too. And then I said, no, Speaker Trump. And she started laughing. She got it. He said, you said that. I didn't say it. You said it. But Trump is, and we know he's running the speakership. He's telling Mike Johnson what to do. And remember this. Remember this. Trump um, has vowed to extend and expand that the so-called Muslim ban, and if he wins the presidency, and um, bar folks from Gaza totally from the United States. So his rhetoric and his will is being done by the MAGA faction, but they want to shoot these people and say, but also remember, Trump also said he wants to shoot, and he was, make no mistake, he was talking about black and brown people when he said this, because again, when he said this, they had just, I think it was Fox News, had just played a video of some black and brown people that appear to be looting a store. And Trump has said that it was one of the things that he will do is have police just shoot them in the streets. The blacks. I will never forget that. Had he continually used that term, the blacks. But this is this is what that's right, Mike V. He said the looting starts, the shooting starts. That's exactly what he said. But this is awful. Again, I don't know the veto. If they have enough to overcome a veto there in Arizona, but um, they are extremely serious about empowering pretty much anyone to shoot and kill migrants who cross the border and who um, would be on any land that's owned by anyone. So this is where things are. This is where they're headed. It's just terrible. Here's a story that caught my attention for the fact that one, it involves the vice president, and two, no national news outlet has this thought it as newsworthy. Um, but a 30-year-old woman, the woman you see here pictured, was arrested for throwing red liquid at the vice president's motorcade Friday evening in the Phoenix area. Her motorcade was passing 7th Street and Alta Vista Road when the woman threw an unidentified red liquid that they later tested and found that it wasn't hazardous. But the fact that she was able to do this, number one, was troublesome in itself. But I find it very curious that only local media in the Phoenix area actually covered this story. And the Associated Press, the Fox News, of course, CNN, no one seemed to have had this story that this occurred in Phoenix. Local news is very important, folks. Local news is extremely important. Community news is very important. So this individual is facing multiple charges, including aggravated assault on a police officer. The liquid splashed on several officers that were in the motorcade, or not inside the motorcade, but along the motorcade route. She's being charged with endangerment and resisting arrest as well. Um, they have not released her name, but they've released her mugshot. The vice president visited South Mountain Community Center in Phoenix to speak at a rally supporting reproductive freedom. Wow. And she looks a little bit out of sorts right here, don't she? Oh, there's the name, Ana Silva Gomez Zamora. Oh boy, Power 96 says, I bet she identified herself as a white Hispanic Latino. That's a lot. So another poll has come out giving you another reason to distrust polls, or at least to shake your head. An ABC News led poll showed that Americans are split on who they trust to do a better job as president. Biden and Trump, the twice impeached, four times indicted former president, twice found responsible for sexual assault by a civil jury, massive business fraud, almost $500 million. It's just so this poll, 36% of Americans now can pay attention, because they say 36% of Americans. So you think, right, that this represents America. 36% trust Donald Trump to do a better job leading the country as president. 33% said they trust Biden, and 30% said they trust neither one of them. More Republicans trust Trump, of course, to do a better job leading the country, 82%. Then Democrats trust Biden. Only 72% of Democrats said they trust Biden. Independents said 32% trust Biden, 31% trust Trump, and 37% of independents trust neither. Their favorability ratings are also similar from this particular poll. 33% of Americans say they have a favorable impression of Biden, 29% for Trump. Just over 1 in 5 Americans, 21%, have an unfavorable view of both Trump and Biden. But I want to just cut out all the numbers and everything and get to what really is important. I mean, it went on to talk about who they trust on crime, the economy, and whatever. But number one, before I get there, I'm still struggling, and I covered the Trump White House. I'm still struggling to find a policy that Trump instituted, a bill that Trump wrote, that many people could say was really good for America. I've never heard him articulate policy. And I was talking to somebody about that. In fact, it was somebody at the White House, and they were saying, it was another reporter at the White House. It says, he dumbs everything down. I said, no, he's just dumb. And I said, well, that's what his appeal is. He's dumb. I said, oh, is that right? Is that where we at? Is that where we really are? But here's the point, though. And Power 96, I see what you said. I'm not ignoring it, because this is where I'm going. He says, I don't pay attention to any polls when there's only 1,000 people. Well, that means you definitely will not pay attention to this poll, because as I dug into the poll, there was this disclaimer from the poll itself. It says, quote, whether this group votes and who they vote for will be a key driver of the 2024 outcome. Whether this group votes. is the key phrase. Also, now to get to Power 96's point, it was a very lazy poll, very lazy poll. For them, for ABC News to represent this as a poll representing the thoughts of Americans is a crime. It's an outright crime. How many people live in America? How many? 75 million people voted for Trump. 81 million people voted for Biden in 2020. That's 100, by my calculation, I'm not good at math, 151 million people. This poll was taken over 2 days, and it consisted of, are you ready? Drum roll, please. 536 people. And they blared out the headlines. This is how Americans see it. Americans are split, they said, on who they. So those 536 people that you randomly, supposedly randomly found, 500, all you can come up with is 500, and over a 2-day period too. See, I mentioned on a previous broadcast about the Pew Research Center. One of the things I love about the Pew Research Center, and I don't write about these political polls, but I write about polls that they do, because their polls are often several 100,000 people. They are very large samples of people, so they're much more reliable. 500, and ABC News should just go off the air right now. As punishment, they should get like a 2-day off-air suspension or something for putting this out and blaring it out as a headline. When only 536 people they asked whatever way they asked the questions. 536 people. And they have outlets everywhere. They have outlets in every state, or perhaps every city in the nation. And you mean to tell me that the head of ABC News could not have said, hey, we want to do this poll and we need everybody to participate? 536 people. So, no, you cannot. Hillary Clinton will tell you in a heartbeat, don't trust the polls. Mike V says the Tangerine Tyrant, which is now my favorite nickname for him, passed no meaningful legislation while in office, and folks trust him to lead. Biden passed 3 major bills, and folks don't trust him to lead, though. Make it make sense. No, of course it doesn't make sense. And one of the things I mentioned being in conversation with the press secretary in her office on Friday, and one of the things she really highlighted was that these are bipartisan bills that Biden was able, and major bills, the Chips and Science Act, the infrastructure. And remember, during Trump's years, they kept talking about infrastructure and oh, that could never get done. Forget about it. Trump himself can't get an infrastructure bill done. And yeah. So the bill, the major bills that the Biden administration was able to get through was done on a bipartisan basis, right? And the climate to try and get something done in a bipartisan way is almost impossible. But this president has been able to do that. He's been able to do the impossible. The lighting in here is horrible. I keep seeing myself fade away, y'all. That's why I keep moving. I'm like, what's wrong with him this morning? I keep seeing myself fade away. But that's the thing. It's to be able to get that done the way he's been able to get it done. You have to give him some credit for that, whether you like the guy or not. You have to give him some credit. And one of the things that the press secretary did say, when they talk about the president's age, he was in the Senate for 36 years. And her point was he has experience in a divided Congress. He has experience getting people, adversaries, to come together for the greater good. And with those huge major bills that he got passed, because the chips and science, people are already seeing that pay off, but it's going to be somebody else's presidency when you see the big payoff for the Chips and Science Act. It's going to be somebody else's presidency when you see the big payoff for the bipartisan infrastructure law that he got through. So he's able to do that. The experience is what he was able to do. You saw MAGA Mike Johnson. You saw him during the State of the Union catching himself agreeing with most of what the president was saying. It's so interesting. It is so interesting. And Lindsey Graham as well. It's someone said, Lindsey, they're wondering how much did it take for Lindsey Graham to sell his dignity, as if he ever had any dignity. That part is what I'm wondering. They want what it took for him to sell it. I'm wondering if he ever had any. And here's what else to look forward to with the Tangerine Tyrant. It's they want to end. We saw this happen down in Georgia with the Fearless Fund. Now, on a federal basis, an agency that's created to help minority-owned businesses and government contracts has been ordered to assist white companies and the Minority Business Development Agency, which is a Commerce Department program that was created way back during the Nixon years. And it was created to help minority-owned businesses. But the judge said it discriminates against white people. And now it must offer its services to people of all races and ethnic groups. Mark T. Pittman was the judge of the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas, and he sided with 2 of the 3 white businesses who sued the agency after they were told its assistance was limited to members of disadvantaged minority groups. The third business was found out to have standing in the case. But the presumption that the business owners were not disadvantaged violated the 14th Amendment's guarantee of equal protection. Or Judge Pittman said, how rich is that? So he's using the Constitution to say that the Constitution says that there's equal protection. Well, how about using the Constitution that says that Black people are not full humans? The Constitution has not changed that. And of course, Pittman is he was appointed by, drum roll please, Donald Trump. And he goes on to say, if courts mean what they say when they ascribe supreme importance to constitutional rights, the federal government may not violate such rights with impunity. This guy goes on to exclaim, "Time's up." The dude said, "Time's up." Who do you think he's talking to? And that ruling, of course, latest in a whole string of court decisions that have totally eroded or totally struck down federal affirmative action mandates in a variety of arenas. Of course, the most prominent example was the Supreme Court itself when they ruled just last year that race conscious college admissions, the programs at Harvard and the University of North Carolina, were outlawed. Pittman referred to that Supreme Court decision 32 times in his decision. Dr. Nicole says that's what they do when they discard and disregard history. They act like they forgot why these organizations and programs exist. It's willful ignorance, is what Dr. Nicole says. And it's so true. So true. Mark Mariel, the Urban League president, says the decision is wrong and stands for a narrow, retrogressive view of the Constitution. He said that the agency's work to concentrate on the growth of businesses that still remain substantially locked out of the mainstream of American economy is necessary and needed. And this is what the lawyer that represented these folks, his name is Dan Lennington. He's from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, and you guessed it, conservative public interest law firm. He goes on to say that the ruling should also be applied to other race conscious practices like the awarding of grants, workplace promotions, and race-based scholarships in higher education. David Youngblood says the decision stands for the blacks have gone too far. It's true. Automatically labeling a group of people as disadvantaged is ridiculous, he said. Really? Say what you will. Yes, there are black folks who have prospered, Latino folks who have prospered. But we was disadvantaged and have been disadvantaged from day zero and continue to be. We talked before about, many times before, about this, the idea of reparations and how everybody got reparations. But it was our slave owners instead of us who got the reparations that we was supposed to receive, right? And every time, and we've reported the last few years, what they were doing in San Francisco, what they were doing in California as a whole, the state. Oh, they are due. Black folks should get this amount of money and this amount of land and this amount of opportunity, and only to finally get the commission that they hired. That's why the HR 40, the federal legislation, it bothers me. But these other legislations passed, these state and local legislations passed about reparations. They hired they got their commission. I hired them. They got their commission together. Commission found what it found. African Americans should be prepared for redlining, slavery, gentrification, everything. So, and the deal was, once the commission reached its decision, send it back to the lawmakers. And every time, oh, we don't have any money for that. Every single time. I mean, there's small pockets of the little town, Evanston, Illinois. began a couple of years ago. They were able to give out some sort of reparations to its residents, its Black descendants of slavery. A program in Massachusetts near Boston. But these are just little uh, pieces of the pie, if you will. I mean, extremely small. It's not even enough to digest. So, and then you gotta understand too Judge Pittman's reasoning. I mean, the guy said that under the way that the agency is set up, and now this is not true what he said, but he made this judge made this in his ruling. He said Oprah Winfrey would qualify as disadvantaged. You know, that's like one of those things to justify, you know, no, I'm not racist, but let me say something racist. The Minority Business Development Agency has a $550 million annual budget, and they have been funding privately operated businesses or business centers in 33 states and Puerto Rico that help companies secure financial aid and strategic advice. Yeah, that's another thing, right? You had your Black president because we had a Black president. It's unreal. And so these business owners were told that they could not apply because they were not disadvantaged. They couldn't demonstrate that they were disadvantaged. The only thing that they won this case on, yeah, Mitch McConnell did say that because we had a Black president. The only thing that they were able to, they prevailed on was simply because they were white. That's pretty much what Pittman came down to. So they're gonna upend everything. We see what the Fearless Fund is going through, have been going through this situation, the affirmative action case, and they warned you that all of these rights were under attack with this conservative Supreme Court that Donald Trump is and Mitch McConnell is responsible for. They knew exactly what they were doing. They play the long game. These Republicans, these conservatives, play the long game, and that is why, folks, Roe v. Wade is gone. That is why they gutted all of the civil and voting rights acts, and they will continue to do so. It's some ill winds are ahead. Some rough roads are ahead. That's really the bottom line, right? Because people are, as who said it, Dr. Nicole, willful ignorance. There's a lot of that going on, willful ignorance. But folks, don't be ignorant. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Let it be known news on YouTube. See, it would be ignorant not to subscribe, in my opinion. And that's just my opinion. So subscribe and tell everybody to subscribe. And we will be back tomorrow. And remember, it's Black Press Week. So any Black journalists like myself working for a Black-owned institution like myself, you guys, give us a hand clap, but most importantly, hit subscribe. All right, Black Press Week. In honor of Black Press Week, I want to see y'all hit subscribe on our YouTube page, and then we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.